music ensemble. I don't need a bass player, I need a gamba player. So I said, that sounds interesting. So I'll look it up and all that stuff. And I discovered there was a Houston group of people that met every Thursday afternoon and they played viol concerts, 3/4 part, all that stuff, every single Thursday and all that stuff. And I joined that group. I took lessons with Carter Crawford, and from there on, I just fell in love with the instrument. Like, it was for me a wake-up call because it opened up the door for like other parts of chamber music that I never had before as a bass player. There was only like 3 quintets I could play in, and that was about it. And then as a gamba player, I can play all this type of music. Like, there's so many years of music, and there's so many viol concerts from England and all that stuff that I just enjoy doing it. And so I decided that my goal was to go study at Indiana and study with Wendy Gillespie. So during those 3 years I was trying to figure out my life, I taught at a public school. I had little gamba with me, my bass viol, and I would play for the kids here and there, and they would be like, oh man, this is so cool, like how do I get a hold of this? How do I play this instrument? And I would think about it and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I will try to figure that out for you and all that stuff. And so it kind of just ended there because it was really not ways that I knew or connections that I knew of people that would be able to help me at that time. I got into Indiana in 2010. I did my master's there for 3 years with Wendy Gillespie. I enjoyed my time there. We worked on viol consorts, we did benzoral notation, and then like in the evenings I would invite friends over to the apartment and we would play viol consorts at night and just enjoy and have a good old time. And it was fun. It was the funnest thing to do. During my time in Indiana, I formed Les Touches in 2011, which was a professional concert, viol concert that I wanted to do because fretwork and phantasm were my inspiration at that time. And I said, I want to be like them. Basically, I want to be like Wendy Gillespie was my goal at that time. So I graduated from IU in 2013, and then here comes the next year that was very important, the year 2015. And I think some of you might remember me when I was there for the York Young Artist Competition, as Les Touches was the finalist in that one back in 2015. And it was my first time to visit London and all that stuff, and that's when I fell in love with scones and clotted cream, which I call unicorn poop. So after that time, I came back from England, and the VDGSA, Viola Gamba Society of America, started this new program called the Loan Consort, which opened up the opportunity to start a gamba consort in public schools or community colleges, whatever you had the connections to. I received the grant and I got 7 viols that first year. I did some demonstrations in 2015 at Oak Ridge High School, and I had 14 kids sign up. Again, I'm going to say I only had 7 gambas with me that year. So I had to do 2 different groups. I had a Monday group and a Tuesday group because I had to make it work because I didn't want to kick anyone out and not give them the chance to play viol consort and all that stuff and going on. It was also that year that we were joined the orchestra competition they have at the Texas Renaissance Festival. They've been having back in the day, and yes, it's an orchestra competition, but I entered as a gamba consort just to say, why not? It was not like I was planning to win anything, but it was just a way to do that way and give the kids a chance to play. And like, this is what the natural state of gamba was, like they would play in the settings of Renaissance music and all that stuff. The group grew and all that in my 4 years left there, and we got a chance to perform at the Boston Early Music Festival in 2017, and in 2019 we were invited to go, thanks to the Viola da Gamba Society Gamba Gamut. We were able to perform there, raise the money, all that stuff. It was a lot of work to raise money. We were basically raising $20,000 in 3 months, and we always ended up doing it somehow. Miracle. During this time at Oak Ridge, I didn't listen to Wendy's advice, and she said, as an American, do not come up with a foreign name for your group. And what did I do? I called it Aquila di Guerra, which was the mascot of the Oak Ridge High School, which was War Eagle. And that's where I came up with that name. And once we got into, did all those performances there, the last year of my year at the high school, it actually became a class in the schedule, so students could take orchestra and they could also take a Gamba class. And so that got a chance to actually see the effects of like, I can actually really focus on Gamba with these kids if I see them like every day on the schedule. And then they were able to do improvisations on lines from Ortiz, and we're able to do that stuff. And there's footage of this on YouTube from that performance of Bossa Nova music in 2019. I think it's probably on our Les Touches page and all that stuff. So if you were interested in seeing that, those recordings are up there on our page. 2019, I got married, and I said, I want to have a life and not be my job all the time. And so what does that mean? I go teach middle school, and I teach middle school at a place closer to my place from home. And it was nice because when I got there, I started another Gamba program because now, at this point, I had like 24 Gambas with me, and they all come with me everywhere I go to. I was always scared not to leave it at the house because the cats tend to spray on them, and it's like, no, they have to go with me at school and all that stuff. And so there at Woodcreek, I started the group called Viols of the Creek. Again, we had opportunities to play at Bossa Nova Music. We did an online on 2021 because of the COVID issue, and then we played in 2023. This was also the group that was invited to go play at the Texas Music Educators Association convention. And this is the first time ever in that educators convention that a Gamba consort has ever been played at that convention. So that was big news. Also, we were featured in a magazine by Early Music of America in January 2023, which had the title Viols Blooming in Texas, which where I got that name and called it my presentation, Viols Blooming in Texas, and all that. So when I started this, and I mentioned before that the VDGSA gave me Gambas, they were Gamba-shaped things, not necessarily good instruments. Some of them were experimental, like someone played with guitar pegs or something, metal stuff, and they would never stay in tune, and somehow we made it work. When people realized when I took these groups to Boston, because I had some connections with like Sarah Mead and the Power School of Music, that they let me borrow instruments, and they say like, whoa, these kids sound amazing with these good instruments. And I'm like, yeah, it would be nice if I actually have some nice instruments. And behold, I got better instruments and better quality instruments. So it keeps growing and all that stuff. I've also received donations from local members in Texas who say, I have this Gamba in the closet, I haven't used it in 10 years. Do something with it. And that's okay, fine, I'll take it with me and all that stuff. Okay, now, here I am in Deer Park ISD. Last year was my first year here at Bonnette Junior High, and I started a program called Viols of Deer Park. I started last year, and I had first like about 8 students who joined the group, but actually I had about 12 or 13. Some people enjoy it and all that stuff, and then some people just figured it's not my thing, which I understand, and I'll go into more details of why I think that's not a thing for some people. And then this year, second year, I have 10 who started in the middle school. And so I have that group on the other side is the high school group that started last year, so there's a second year. And then this is their first year. They've been playing since September. Now, the way that school works and all that stuff in Texas, the kids are involved in a lot of things. They're involved in sports. They're involved in clubs. They're involved in everything. And then they have their own things outside of school and outside activities and all that stuff. So I only get, let's see, 45 minutes once a week with the high school group to practice. That's all I get. We make it work. We don't waste time. We get to work. I get maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour with the middle school group during advisory, but then they have other commitments to other teachers, and they have to do all this other stuff too. So we make it work somehow and all that. Now, that's like the history of what I came to the Gamba, and then that's the history of what I've been doing for this. Now, I want to start today with a performance of the first piece the kids have learned the first time they try the Gamba, and this is called an allemande. I like it because it focuses on one string, so the kids get used to playing that string, and then once they feel comfortable, they move on to the second string. So what you're about to hear, we're going to play the Aleman. You're going to hear everyone play their top D string. And then the second time the repeat happens, they have a choice of moving to a different string and all that stuff. So give me a moment, let's get our lives in tune, and then we'll play Aleman for y'all. One, two, three, go. So, the first song the students learn to play is Aleman, which focuses on one string and all that stuff. Now, you're dealing with the requirement, first of all, to join my Gamba group is you have to play a string instrument already. You have to play in an orchestra. You have to play like violin, viola, cello, bass before. And so once you master that, I don't allow any beginners, I don't allow sixth graders to join the group because they're trying to figure out their life, first of all, on the other instrument. And once they feel comfortable, then we learn how to play Gamba if they're interested in it. So I use the Pazzamesso method book to do all my pieces and all that stuff for ensembles. There's also the edition that comes with a bunch of little solos. So to start out with, first of all, not every single student goes from, oh, I play cello, bass, I'm gonna play the bass file. Oh, I play viola, I'm gonna play tenor. Oh, I play violin, I'm gonna play the treble. Nope. Everyone just picks whatever their calling is. I have a few bass players who are like a viola player. I have tenor players that are violin players. So now they have to get used to a totally different clef and figure all this out. So this is why I start with Aleman, because this is your attention now. You're gonna focus as one string. This is what it looks like on the music staff for this instrument. Because then they figured out how to read music, but now they're trying to figure out, oh, where's this note on this instrument? Like, where is it? Oh my God. And then there's an F string. Why would anyone do that? Yeah, exactly. It's very all that. So they go through different clefs, and they're also trying to figure out the geography of the instrument. Now, what I always hear from all of them is that the bow is the easiest thing to do, the bow hold, because it's just like boom, there, and call it a day. Instead of the whole work they have to do with violin and viola, making sure everything's bent, making sure pinky's up, making sure relax, all that stuff, and all this work, and all this sweat that happens to it. But this one is just like, here it is. It's the most relaxed bow hold in the world, and there's no tension in the body, all that stuff. So there's never bow hold issues when it comes to this. So that's the good part of that. We learn how to relax and hold the instrument. It's always funny, the first few rehearsals, it's like you see them shake because the leg muscles need to build up, and then you're holding the instrument and all that stuff. But then eventually they get it. Now, they wear jeans with some sort of weird material sometimes, and we have to get shelf liners too to build up the confidence, because some of them, as soon as they put the instrument, it just slips all that stuff. So we kind of have shelf liners to kind of help that get into comfortable. Now, we start playing some solos at the beginning, like on the D string and A string, get really comfortable with it, and then I start throwing 3-4 part music on there. Now, I hold their hand and I teach them the D and the A string and get that confidence going. And then a few weeks after that, I throw them into the lake and I say, oh, there's a C string. Oh, there's an E string. There's all these other strings on the instrument. Good luck. And they figure it out. And if they can't, they ask questions. Like, it's fine, we make it work. I never leave anyone on the floor like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Like, no, they figure it out, where it is and all that stuff. And usually I make a chart that says like, these are all the notes on this string, this is what it looks like, get used to all this stuff. So the chart helps all that stuff. Now, we start learning our songs, and I'm going to show what the middle school is doing right now first. And so we play these few songs and we're working together. And then by Christmas, we learn some 4-part Christmas music, known Christmas carols, and all that stuff from a collection called the Kaleidoscope. They work perfectly in orchestra, but they actually somehow work perfectly for the gambas and all that stuff. And once we get through all that, by May, we start looking at what we call real music. And we start looking at Jenkins' 4-part, and we start figuring out some of those fantasias and all that stuff, 3-part, all that stuff. But all this determines on how much confidence you build for the kids, so there's always doubling. And somehow, like as I mentioned before, it's all done in that small amount of time I get. 45 minutes a week, 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and then we make it all work because it requires commitment from them. And in this group, I'm part of the group. I'm playing as well too, as you saw before. I'm not conducting, I'm not directing anything. I'm part of the group as well. And after, we're gonna play a few songs with the first group, and then I'm gonna talk about the culture of our consort and why I think it works and it keeps students doing this. So let's get through our part. So we're gonna play a few pieces from the Pazzamezzo collection, Petrucci piece, The Clown, Washerwoman, Over the Hills and Far Away, and Burma Masca as well. So we'll have about 6 songs, so enjoy. So, as you saw with the first group, this is what they're able to play, and again, in a short amount of time. Now, here's where I have my problem, because I'm also an orchestra director that comes first, and I do Gamba too, so it's like two different peoples that I am. Now, in Texas, everything is a competition, everything's judged, everything is given a comment, everything's given a rating. And as an orchestra teacher, I always keep to high standards and make sure that those standards are kept. Okay? So it's not like, oh, he's just lazy and he just likes this because he doesn't want to do his job. No, I always make sure that there's high standards on orchestra when they're playing all that stuff to meet all the standards that's required by the state. And I'm not like, okay, just play whatever you want. Like, no, I actually do my job before anyone starts saying anything. Now, in consort playing and Gamba, we're the only ones that exist in Texas. It's only been at 3 schools because it's been me who brought the program to those schools and all that stuff. And so there's no competition, there's no ratings, there's no judges saying, oh my God, you did this, you did that. There's none of that. So it comes to that idea like, we're playing music for fun. What a concept. Like, we're not playing it for a competition. Like today, I told the kids, people want to listen to you play. They're not there over Zoom and like writing comments like, oh my God, I can't believe they missed that note. No one's doing that. We're just playing music for fun. And like you say that and like, oh, why are you saying it? Well, because that's what Texas kind of has, these like all these stipulations and all that stuff, which again, I have nothing against, because as an orchestra teacher, I do my job that takes care of those standards and all that stuff. So there's not like, oh, whatever. So as you can see, and everyone knows, in the land of viol consorts, there's no such thing as first violin. There's no such thing as chairs. Everyone plays, we play our music, and so everyone has an equal voice to say in it. The music that we play today and the music you'll hear in the high school group, everyone has an equal voice to say in it. No one is like, oh, well, I'm the first violin part, I'm gonna do this, whatever. No, everyone has like an equal voice to say that. Now, for some of the music that I use, once we pass through the ensemble stuff of the Pazzamesso method, I go through the VDGSA website, and there's a few songs called Teach My Neighbor that I use to kind of introduce the 4-2, to teach them what a half note gets the beat. And then there's a few things I look at IMLSP. I tend to go to Bird for a lot of tough, like 3-part music to get them started on those things. In the past, I've done the Taverner and Nominee. I've done the Jenkins Pavan and D for 4-part. And sometimes I've asked a few editors if they can rewrite it for me in 4/4 instead of 4/2, just to build up that confidence on it and get them to get used to it and all that. The issue that I usually have is trying to find repertoire that is different every single year. If you ask anyone that I started in 2015, they will recognize all those songs that I just did today. Petrucci's piece, The Clown, Washerwoman, because that seems to be the standard that I always start with. And so trying to find repertoire for this level of playing is a little bit hard, but I'm always interested to find things and what's on there and all that. Now, for the next part, we're going to hear is the high school group, and they're going to play 4 pieces, Ronde, Fortune of My Foe, All My Garden Green, and then the other source that I use for pieces for the viol consort is orchestra pieces that somehow fit very well. And the last one we'll play with them is called the Telemann Symphonia. That works out very well in the Gamba. So 1 moment. All right, so you've heard what 1 year I've been able to do in a minimum time, and you hear what the second year I've done during that time. In theory, the high school group is not my students of record anymore, and so after school is the only opportunity I get a chance to work with them. And like I mentioned before, everyone's involved in everything, ROTC, athletic, all this other stuff going on. So sometimes we rehearse and I don't get everybody, but we make it work, and so it's great, all that stuff. So where does this go from here, and what happened to all those kiddos in the past that used to be in this group? Because like I mentioned before, at Oak Ridge, I think I had a total of about 50 kids who played in that Gamba program total. And then when I went to Woodcreek, I had about 35 that played in that group total. So with this, and I'm about 100. I've introduced the Gamba to them. I mean, they get sad when I say I'm leaving, I'm doing something else, I'm doing another job. But as we all say, life goes on. I have a few students that still continue to play from that first group of Aquila di Guerra. I have my student, Matt Dunn, who's been playing in bass today, and he was in that group that went to Boston the second time in 2019. And then I have a few others in that group that still have a Gamba. Since I mentioned before that I have about 24 Gambas, I have these Gambas lying around in my orchestra room, and I say, anyone wants to still play? And so like, I have a few who live in Dallas, I have a few who live in Austin, and they still have one of my Gambas, and they're going to the reading sessions in that area of town. And they're still playing and all that stuff. They'll go to Conclave if they're able to that year. The group that was last year that I had, not last year, a few years ago with Viols of the Creek, I have actually a few current students of those that still come to the reading sessions I host for Viols of Houston on Saturday mornings and all that stuff. So it's not something like bye, you'll never see them again and disappear into the thin air. They still want to keep up, they still want to play. So it's the camaraderie, it's like a totally different world that I mentioned before about the consort, that everyone has an equal say to say in. And in education, orchestra, you put kids in levels of playing. And say, well, you're in the bottom group, you're in the middle group, you're in the top group. I mean, and that's the way you have to do it anyway, because I mean, if not, there'll be chaos all over the world. So, in consort, in Gamba consort, it doesn't matter what group you're in, if you're in the bottom group, if you're in the top group, we all play together in one group, in the consort group, in the consort and chamber music. We're all playing together. It doesn't matter what level playing, it doesn't matter if you're like the worst violin player in the entire world. You're doing Gamba at this time, and you're going to play Gamba, and you're going to do it what's going on right there with you. I've always noticed in my experience doing this since 2015 that the ones that enjoy the chamber music, the ones that enjoy playing with friends and all that stuff, keep with it. I always felt that the ones that want to like play solo rep and want to play like other stuff usually don't enjoy Gamba concert. They'll play for 2-3 weeks. And I think it's an ego thing. I mean, I'm not insulting anybody. And then they just don't want to do it anymore. Because they thought it was going to be like, oh, we're going to play like Moray and Shank. All the other stuff is like, no, this is just concert stuff. None of them are taking lessons on Gamba. I'm just the main director. I show them everything they need to know how to play these instruments and all that. And like, I mentioned before about the different levels and all that. So like, I've always noticed that sometimes in Gamba concert, they become friends with people you wouldn't think they would be friends with. And I always find that very interesting, how that works out and socially places for that, which is very interesting what music does and all that stuff. So I wanted to give a chance, because I know some people are like, want to know like, what you do, did you lure them with like a Pied Piper, like with candy and lollipops, and you got them to play Gamba and all that stuff? I was gonna have a few, say a comment or so, why are they play Gamba, or why are they doing this? You wanna get up and say something, right? Just stand up and just say.
I joined the Gamba group because the viol is a very unique instrument and not many have the opportunity to actually learn.
Anyone else? Anyone?
So I joined the Gamba group because I wanted to play an instrument that I know that no one else would be able to play, and I thought it was really interesting to hear something that was from way back when, and not like mainly used in modern time.
Yeah.
I chose to play this instrument because it sounded very interesting, and I would love to hear it and pursue it.
Nice. All right. So you heard it from them. I didn't force anybody. I didn't say if you say it, I'm going to give you candy afterwards. I didn't say that. Now, I'm coming to the end of my presentation. And before I get to that, was there any questions for me or anything from Zoom?
Well, I think the first thing to say is a huge thank you to all of the players. It's been absolutely lovely to hear you all.
Thank you.
Same here.
I don't know if anybody on the call has got any questions. John Bryan has raised his hand. John, over to you.
Hello, Pedro, and please pass on our thanks to all your students for giving up their time to entertain us. It's incredible how much they've managed to achieve in the limited time that you have with them. And I was going to ask you, what facilities do the students have for practicing between your lessons? Can they take the viols home with them? Do they do everything at school? What's the plan?
Okay, so in theory, they can take the instruments home. They have access to it. I don't charge them for using the instruments or anything like that. So they're welcome to take them home. Some of them do that. They practice on their own, and then every time we meet, that's when we get the chance to practice on it. Yeah, the students have access to the instruments. And then of course, we try to teach them, once we get comfortable, how to tune moving the pegs, because that's a different story. Because that kind of makes me nervous when I ask them to do that, especially middle school. Because then it's like, if you break a string, you have to wait till you see me again, because I have all the strings with me. Any other questions?
Well, the other thing I was going to ask, you've mentioned the difficulty of what happens for the students once they leave your school or college. Is there any sort of infrastructure in the United States for teachers to work together? Do you know other people that are doing similar work elsewhere? Can the students meet up with other people of their sort of age group outside school?
I know there's a few programs out there, like in Madison, and then Chicago, but there hasn't been anything organized yet, because there's been talks for here in the States to kind of have like a summer workshop or something to kind of put all these students together in one place. Everything's just in talks right now, and I'm trying to work with a camp in Houston to try to see if I can offer that opportunity just to open up to other students that are not necessarily in my school.
That's brilliant. And we have a question from Jackie Robertson-Wade. Jackie, do you want to unmute and ask?
Yeah. Yeah, just cut out there. Pedro, this is amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think you are a miracle worker, and I think you get such a fabulous sound from these young players. And I think it really, really helps that they're string players.
Oh yes.
Originally, but you know, the sound that you're getting and the time that you have with them is, if the result is just incredible. So I think congratulations on that. I think when I did this in schools, I did it from 1998 to 2016, and had a fair amount of children, 20 to 30 children learning viols. And what we used to do, I just share quickly, was to get everybody together with recorders, and we had a tutor band because it gave them a sort of sense of hierarchy. So like orchestral players would have the orchestra, and then the consorts would have tutor band, and then they could get together, and that was really nice to have a big ensemble and make a big sound. But I just wanted to congratulate you, and of course you've got IMSLP and Passamezzo method, and so you've got all these fabulous resources. But yeah, just well done. I everything you said resonated. Like, I need you to get my life back. So yes. But congratulations, it's fantastic program.
Thank you very much.
On the topic of the program, we did have one question in the chat, which was just, could we have a reminder of the name of the last piece that the higher school played?
The last piece just played, it's a Telemann Sinfonia.
Telemann Sinfonia, that's lovely, thank you. That would satisfy the curiosity of Ibi Aziz on the call.
It's an orchestra piece, and then we just took it for the Gambas and all stuff. So I do that sometimes. I'll find some pieces that work from the orchestra repertoire, and it fits perfectly on Gambas.
Yeah, that worked really well, I think.
Yep.
Do we have any more questions from anyone on the call, or are we going to let these young people get back to their lives? Been sitting very patiently on the stage behind you.
They have. If not, I have some closing remarks.
Fine. Well, I think we've had all the questions, so over to you.
Okay, so there's a lot of people that I need to thank, and a lot of organizations I need to thank, because this just happened like, oh look, I have kids playing Gamba, there's the magic dust and all that stuff. First of all, to start out with, I'd like to thank Deer Park ISD for allowing me to use facilities at my school and at the high school to practice with me with the kids without any issues or drama. I would like to thank my fine arts director, Mr. Jason Dove, for his help in organizing to make sure all of this was going to work today, with the setup with the sounds and all that stuff, and making sure lighting and all everything was set up on stage. This is great for us to present over on Zoom, so I thank him very much for all his efforts on that. I would like to thank Mr. Kaysenbury. He's our high school director who has most of my students in the high school group, for his help with communicating with the students, because I no longer have direct contact with them, and letting them know when things are happening. And he set up the stage for us and all that stuff, and all the chairs and all that stuff, and I really appreciate that very much. Mr. John Law, thank you for allowing us to do viols in this district of orchestra, because I know other places where that's a no, that's not going to happen. Okay, and you're very supportive of us doing this, so thank you so much. I'd like to thank the VDGSA for their support that I have received in the past, the PETC grant, which has taken care of me fixing instruments that break. I've had to buy new cases, because I forgot to mention, in the past I've received gambas in a coffin, in a box, in a wooden box, and the kids were too embarrassed to take it home. I'm like, oh no, we're gonna get you a better case, because I would be embarrassed to take it too. People are gonna think you're carrying a dead cat or something in there, okay? And for them to giving me expenses to buy strings and all that stuff, I would do that. And I would also like to thank Early Music of America for kind of putting that article back in January 2023 in their magazine about the project that I've been working on since 2015, which featured Viols of the Creek, and that's available online if you're interested in reading about that. It's most of what kind of I said today and all that. There are lots of people to thank across the nation who have given me gambas, instruments that I can use for the students, and they're all being used for, well, they're not just rotting away and it's like, oh my God, that's the sound they're making and all that stuff. And I would like to specifically thank the coaches that have come over the years that worked with these kids. Sarah Mead, Josh Lee, Wendy Gillespie, Chris Philpott, and Carol Lewis. They have come and worked with the kids. Had someone else say something to them other than me all the time. So it's been really nice, and I appreciate the VDGS for letting me allow to present this information of what we do across the pond with the viols at a young age, starting in middle school. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Pedro. It has been fabulous to hear.
Thank you.
Message to all of you from the UK to the youngsters: don't give up, keep going.
The more you play, the more fun it gets. The nicer the people you meet, the more enjoyment there is. It's a lifetime of pleasure. So brilliant. Thank you very, very much. It has been absolutely beautiful. It was a fabulous performance. Very hard, I think, performing live and to an audience that you can't see. And you did amazingly well. It was really, really brilliant.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Bye-bye all.